everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Pinnacle podcast. I am one of your hosts, Daniel, joined by my other two hosts.
It's Berman.
And it's Chris.
Yes. So today we talked. Last week we talked about 6 movies. Now this week we're talking about 6 more movies. MCU Phase 2. Now, funny enough, in phases 3 and 4, there are 11 and 12 projects each to review, respectively. So this is kind of lightweight in comparison to the next 2 phases. So, hey, we got quite a bit to talk about. Well, quite a bit of time to analyze, I guess you could say here. But let's begin. We begin quite interesting with our first film of Phase 2, Iron Man 3. This is the 7th MCU project, and personally, I think it was the worst film. And some people do, but then there's people like me who actually thought the film wasn't that bad. Now, I'm going to be honest, there are definitely some issues with this film. Tony is kind of an asshole to Pepper in this film. Like, he literally puts her in situations where she could die time and time again, and I just don't really understand why Tony's character would do that at any point whatsoever. So that was a bit outlandish to me, if I could say the least. And the real villains, not the Mandarin, are honestly kind of lackluster in my personal opinion. They're not the worst, though, for sure. And, I'm glad that the movie doesn't really take itself quite too seriously from time to time. Like, they kind of poke jokes around it, like, oh, you have fire. Something like, kind of like simple jokes that War Machine can pull, or, Tony Stark can typically pull in the film. I thought the humor itself was pretty all right for the most part. And I thought just the interaction with the 10-year-old kid alone is better than the entirety of Iron Man 2. I could safely fucking say it. This is honestly the least comic book accurate MCU film to date. However, due to the MCU constantly having this need to be, entirely accurate with the comic books, I like this, and it feels fresh. I'm honestly getting tired of the fucking follow the comic bullshit. I mean, like, I get it. The twist with the Mandarin wasn't the greatest, and it wasn't the smartest thing to do here. But with that being said, I don't really think it hurt the film as much as a lot of people really think. This is honestly, if you just think about it, a standalone kind of thing. It's fun, and it's just decent. It's nothing too crazy. You don't have to really think about it too much. It's fine. Like, personally, I think it's decent. Again, I say decent, not great. I'm going to give this a 6.5 out of 10. Do I strongly encourage anybody to watch this? No, probably not. But it's a fine film, and I don't really think it deserves as much hate as it gets.
Well, first, I think Iron Man 2 is just way better than this one. Don't get me wrong, was not a bad movie. It was okay. It was fairly forgettable to me. I don't like that they kind of made Mandarin a actor. I just hate that. And I love the kid. The kid is probably the best part of the whole entire thing, and all the armors flying around. I like that. Everything else just kind of forgettable. Yeah, Tony Stark is a asshole, but technically, if you think about it, technically, this is what happened. He's experienced a lot of flashbacks from Avengers, and just gives them a lot of PTSD, really. And maybe that's why he's so an a-hole to him. I don't know. Maybe that's why. We get some type of story, but I don't know. This movie just never one of my favorites. I'm gonna give it a 4.5 for me.
That's fair. Excuse me. Sorry, it's a little messed up, peoples. But out of all these movies we're about to review, this is one I strongly disagree with because I really hate this movie for what exactly it is. Just the whole, besides the Mandarin thing, the whole like point of this villain going after Tony Stark is because of a little thing of a meeting he had like back in what, like the 90s or the 80s or whatever. It's like, when Tony Stark didn't meet with me on the rooftop, so I'm going to become super evil because he ignored me because he's too busy banging other broads.
It's a
Wah.
simple thing, though. It's happened before.
Oh my god. You don't hold a grudge because some guy's a fucking asshole to you, and he wasn't even that mean about it. He was just,
If you're not right in the head, that it's a possibility that
dude.
people do that.
Danny, are you gonna hold a grudge with a fucking tech billionaire guy who's just like, hey, I don't like you and I have no interest talking to
I
you?
would, hey, I wouldn't. But you're telling me that there is not one person on this planet that would do something like that.
Yeah, it's the fucking Riddler, aka the Batman. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But anywho, the biggest thing, I don't know if you guys noticed it by rewatching this, but like 3 minutes into this movie, there's one scene in particular with the Mandarin where he actually gives it away that he like does like an American accent. If you pay
Yeah, that
closely
was kind of the
attention,
point. Like you weren't supposed to ever take this seriously.
dude, I'm not. I'm gonna take it seriously when this motherfucker is showing like ISIS propaganda in the middle of the movie of him like executing soldiers and all this other wild ass shit. It's just like I'm the real villain. Just for it to be revealed that I'm just an actor, lol. I'm completely pointless and I had nothing to this movie because I'm just buying time for the real villain, and I'm gonna turn people into nano machines, son. Nano machines. But I'll give you credit, Daniel, because the action scenes were a lot of fun in this. But many of these jokes that Iron Man Tony Stark were saying weren't that funny to begin with, and it's real bad, like Marvel bad, because they're not the greatest of jokes. But this is definitely not a greatest showcase. And quite frankly, I don't understand the whole point of the scene with the kid because it didn't go anywhere, and we never hear from this kid ever again in any of the other Marvel parts. So this was completely pointless.
That's a lie.
Name one other time we see this child ever again, besides this
The
movie.
Tony Stark funeral in Endgame.
Oh my god, he was there for one scene, Daniel. They did nothing with this child. It adds nothing to it. But
Well, he
hmm,
doesn't have superpowers, so why would he come back?
because he just kids is like this kid's gonna be the next heir to the Iron Man people, and it
When did they
didn't.
ever? When did they ever establish that in this
They
film?
fucking implied it. 'Cause it's like I'm a super genius child because I like technology,
They that's a stretch and a half.
dude.
It
That's what.
really could. Just saying, there has been a kid Iron Man before in the comics before.
There have, but they weren't trying to like refer that kid to. All right, all right. I
That
don't know
makes
how you
sense.
got that connection.
Dude, because that's what they're officially going for. But the only thing Iron Man 3 is known for, and let's be honest here, guys, it's the last part with Piper and all the Iron Man machines going ham. Because that final battle
That's
scene,
fire.
that's the only good thing that this movie has. And besides that, this movie's very forgettable, and I don't like it, and I still stand by it. So it's getting a 2 out of 10. Trash ass
Brutal,
movie,
brutal.
brutal.
Well, you wanted to be brutal to that movie. I'm gonna be brutal to this movie. Thor: The Dark World. Okay, language is about to be explicit as fuck for this one. Okay. What a fucking mess. This is easily one of the worst superhero films that has ever been released. And I don't even know where the fuck to begin. I don't even know where do we even start? All right, Natalie Portman shit acting. That's a good place to start. There. Where we start at with a fucking dinner with her repeating the word sea bass, sea bass, sea bass, sea. And then they literally pointed out, well, that this shit's not fucking funny. This is all not fucking funny. Why is my time being wasted? This shit's already 2 fucking hours. I don't need to see what the fuck they're gonna have for fucking lunch. I don't need to fucking see it. This is the most pointless garbage shit ever. And it literally has no fucking point in the long scheme of things. What? It's over a fucking infinity stone. Who fucking cares what these dark elves have to fucking do or say? They look like shit. They fight like shit. Everything about this film is fucking shit. It is literally boring as fuck. And all the issues in the first film are repeated here in the second film, but they're even worse. And there's not even any fucking good scenes like there actually were in the first film, outside of maybe two. And that's thanks to fucking Thor and Loki. And besides that, what the fuck else happens? Oh, his mom gets murdered. Who fucking who? That doesn't get addressed till years and years after it fucking happened. Because this movie is shit. Not even Marvel likes this fucking film. Trash. Trash. This film is garbage. Easily the worst Marvel Cinematic Universe film or project to date. I hate this fucking film. It is a 1.5 out of 10. Fuck this garbage. There's barely anything redeemed about it. I'm letting Berman talk about it from here.
All right, really heavy. I kind of have the same sentiment for me, but I say off the bat first, this would probably been a 1 out of 10 for me. But when I did rewatch it, I kind of increased it to a 2, just because actually, yeah, it was a big mess. You can actually see when when that big monster was in the jail cell, you can see he was hitting a green screen. It was brutal. Like the effects sucked. It was just bad. The only thing to me that was just redeemable was actually some of the fight scenes. Some of the fight scenes were actually pretty okay. Not that bad, not the best fight scenes, but they're a fairly redeemable fight scenes with the dark elves and whatever. And I actually liked the end credit scene. I love that the collector, yeah, the collector just took it, and after that he said, "All right, six more to go." I just love that. It was actually a pretty good end credit scene. So that's the only thing I'm gonna say right now. Just that two for me.
And your rating, my dude.
What?
Oh, you're rating? Sorry.
Yeah, I'm good. I just have it two. It's twos for me.
Oh, okay. I'll go with you guys. It's it's not the worst. Actually, no, it's pretty bad. No,
It's the worst.
yeah.
It is the worst
I, I
Marvel project to date.
I will give the film credit because like it's bad, but the funny cameo for Captain America was very unexpected, and I completely forgot that was in the movie. So just because Captain America was in it, it's getting a two.
No, yeah,
And
that's what I mean though. Like that one scene with Loki, that was like one of the only two good scenes.
and I guess the final fight wasn't the worst thing. I mean, it was pretty cool seeing that. Seeing like Loki was about to cut off like Thor's arm off was pretty sick. But outside of that, the film's very weak, and I don't want to watch it again. So 2 out of 10. But Iron Man 3 sucks more. Oh,
Nah, nah. All right, all right. Now we get on to one of the best Marvel Cinematic Universe movies to date. It is Captain America: Civil War. Ah, yeah. This is phenomenal. All right, there. It is just phenomenal. This feels
That's
like a true, oh, freaking Winter Soldier. Jesus
calm
Christ!
down,
I
Jerry.
said
We'll get there. We'll get there, man. We'll get there.
All right, Winter Soldier, 2 years earlier. Shit. No, Winter Soldier is easily a top five Marvel Cinematic Universe film, in my opinion. The Winter Soldier is amazing. Okay, so overall, this feels like a true comic book film. It is absolutely phenomenal. It's absolutely badass. There are some really cool spy elements involved here, and honestly, this was a really cool way to address the whole like confusion between Hydra and Shield in the best way possible. And I really like the way the war kind of ended in this film. And I thought, some of the little things like the way Nick Fury kind of faked his death, and like you have like the freaking Nazi supercomputer, like this is some really stupid comic book shit if you think about it, but that's really what adds on to this film. And truly, the inclusion of Black Widow was also fun. It was honestly a genuinely very good introduction for Falcon, or Sam Wilson, seeing that he's like a therapist, during his free time. And he's always helping people in some way, shape, and form, and that kind of attests to like the good character in Sam Wilson. So yeah, I really, really liked it. This, honestly, you can rewatch this film over and over again. Honestly, I think it's better with every rewatch. It aged just perfectly well, and the whole Winter Soldier story involving Bucky was just emotional, and it was awesome, and it resulted in honestly a very emotional final fight, and the ending probably making for genuinely one of the best endings to a Marvel movie to date. That there now the only issue, the only negative I could possibly have about a film like this is that I feel like a bit sometimes the writing, like the dialogue, felt a little off to me. Like whether it was some kind of little weird joke or something odd that they made Black Widow say. I just don't know. But besides that little critique, a very small thing, this film it's just simply phenomenal. Again, that's the only word to describe it. Phenomenal. I'm going to give it a 9.5 out of 10.
Completely understandable. This is a great movie, and I always loved the Winter Soldier's look, the metal arm, and everything. I was happy to see that they got him right, and they did the most amazing job with Winter Soldier's story and awesome look. And I love the Falcons' entrance, and it was funny when what's it called? He what's it called? Sam Wilson showed a picture of him flying one of these wing packs, and Captain America said, "I thought you were a pilot." Is a not that type of pilot. It was a great dialogue actually. It was a pretty good dialogue scene with those two. Though that's a great combination between those two, the Steve Rogers and Sam Wilson. Great together. Uh, Black Widow and Nick Fury, they were pretty fun. They had the good spy scenes with Captain America and Black Widow were very interesting. I think the Nazi computer was funny, and I do like how they did that. It was pretty good. I would always love to see the Hydra and Shield. Those two are great forces, pretty much are factions. We call it better, and definitely this is great. One of the best movies that they probably made until probably like later in this third phase. But this is definitely one of the best movies, and definitely I'll give this to probably a 9.5 out of 10 too.
And honestly, same here. Captain America is the best part of the MCU, and the Winter Soldier is one of my favorite of all time. Like you guys said before, it's so good. It introduces Hydra. It introduces the fucking Nazi computer. Like, come on, man! It can't get any more comic-y than that. And plus, many of the action scenes were great. There's nothing I really had to complain. Black Widow and Nick Fury was fucking awesome, and everything about this movie is great. Just watch it. 9.5 out of 10.
Yeah, personally, this is my favorite in the Captain America trilogy. Would you guys agree?
Yeah, I think so. Well, I think Captain America: Civil War was very good too. So I think that probably maybe
Yeah.
oversteps it maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll
Same here.
definitely have to talk about Civil War in the future. That's going to be a very interesting movie to discuss. And interestingly enough, it is the first in Phase 3. So very interesting.
Great way to start.
It is a great way to start. Now we move on to the next movie, which until Infinity War and Endgame came out was my favorite Marvel Cinematic Universe movie. Yes, I am talking about James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, I fucking oh man, I love every single thing about this film. The humor up till this point was the best sense of humor in any Marvel film to date. This was 2014, so up to this point. There are films that might derank it in terms of sense of humor, but up to this point, this was definitely the funniest film. And honestly, Peter's story involving the death of his mom was very heart gripping, and him also kind of having this dysfunctional stepfather sort of weird relationship with Yondu, where Yondu kidnapped him, but he also watched over him and trained him how to fight in some ways. And honestly, it's a very complicated and unique relationship between Peter and Yondu. And this does get explored as well in the second film, but I like how it gets explored here as well. And honestly, Yondu has a pretty nice edge to him, despite not being the Guardians of the Galaxy. He makes for a very fun, side character in this huge story, I guess you could say. When we get to the other Guardians of the Galaxy members, Gamora may be my least favorite member, but that doesn't take anything away from her. And honestly, throughout the film, we learn a little bit more about her relationship with her sister Nebula and her father Thanos, or not her biological father, but well, we'll explain that whole thing later. Point being, though, is that uh, she's kind of confused, when she kind of starts to fall in love with Peter a little bit. But not really is it just her falling in love with Peter, it's, also her loyalty to her father. So, she's finally learning like what the meaning of life is and what having friends are through the Guardians of the Galaxy. So, in all that sense, you understand Gamora's whole standpoint too. And then you go over to Rocket and Groot. And this duo is just wholesome as hell. They are a fantastic duo. I mean, Brad Pitt talking as a freaking robot raccoon. You can't really get any better than that, and he really kills it in this role. And he killed it so much to the point where where Rocket is literally a household name. Everybody literally killed it here. And if even one person didn't get their role right, the Guardians of the Galaxy would have never become household names. And if it wasn't for if this film literally was perfect, the whole 80s soundtrack, the action, and of course, Drax, of course, I forgot to mention Drax, Dave Bautista, who, since we talk about wrestling quite a lot on this channel, it was very fun to see Bautista in this film. And he killed it in this film as well, man. He was, and him wanting revenge on Thanos, but starting with Ronan made perfect sense. And sure, Ronan may be a basic villain in some aspects, but I actually like him as a villain. And I like the fact that, it did require all of them to actually beat him. Unlike most villains before, where, like Loki, for example, he could have lost to Thor by himself. Not all of the Avengers really needed to be there to take him out. So Ronan, in that sense, I understood the power levels of him, and I really liked Ronan. And honestly, there were way worse villains than Ronan in the MCU. Let's just get real here. And yeah, honestly, like I said, comedy on point, action on point, acting on point. The design of everything, like space and whatnot, it's all just fantastic. It's all on point. And without a doubt, this film is perfection. I'm going to give this film, the very first for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, a 10 out of 10.
Alright, that's okay rating for me. I like the movie is pretty good. I actually like the movie. I love the Dave Bautista. Yeah, it was to me surprising that Vin Diesel freaking did the voice acting for Groot. It just a kind of waste
That's
of talent.
hilarious too.
It,
That's
it's
hilarious
funny as
too.
hell. It's just weird to me. It's like why have him as a voice of Groot? Someone else could do it, but it was just weird. And it was pretty. I love it. It's just a good movie. I think Star Lord is probably one of my favorites just because of how he's a funny guy. He uses the music, great 80s, 90s music. Just beautiful. The relationship between him, Gamora, and Rocket, which I love Rocket's humor sometimes when he does like, all right, I need that guy's eye, I need that guy's arm, I need some tape,
Yeah,
I need. It was
those
just
jokes are
funny.
so stupid.
It was very good. It was funny and it just worked. And I think it's a great movie. It's fun. It's a great movie that anyone can watch and definitely rewatch anytime you want. And don't get me wrong, I'm not going to speak that highly of this movie because I like this movie, but I'm not going to give it a 10 out of 10. I give it a 9 for me. But it was a great movie from my experience, and that's
Exactly.
all for me.
Exactly. Because this soundtrack is what really sold me the movie, dude. This I still go back to this day in 2022, and I still listen to the soundtrack of the movie because Guardians of the Galaxy is so fucking lit when it comes to the music, and not only that, the characters are great. Everything about this movie is a great Marvel movie. You have many funny scenes. You got a great action scene. Shit, we even get introduced to the greatest fucking MCU villain of all time, and still the greatest, Benos, aka Thanos from Fortnite twerking and shit. Thank you. And besides that, this movie's great. I love all these characters. Batista. This movie saved Batista, so I gotta respect it because it's the more thing that WWE will ever do for Batista, and it saved him. So 10 out of 10 for Guardians of the Galaxy. It's fucking great.
I completely agree with you, but save him from what, if I may ask?
Because during this time he was going through like a lot of bankruptcy. It was just a bad
Really.
time. Yeah, this movie saved him
I
financially,
didn't know
dude.
that. I didn't know that. That wow. Okay, wow. That's really cool.
It was bad. It was like his lowest point, dude. He lost his house and everything because of wrestling, and this movie fucking boosted his Hollywood career. So if it wasn't for this movie,
Shit,
Batista
man.
wouldn't be shit right now.
Damn.
It's one of his
Well, all right.
greatest.
Now we're going to talk about a polarizing movie, probably the most controversial MCU project to date. Well, not anymore. But for now, at this point, Avengers Age of Ultron. People loved it. People hated it. People thought it was okay. That's what I thought. I thought it was okay. There are some things to really like and really dislike. I'll say the things I dislike first. I thought there was some lazy ass editing on certain scenes. There was like a certain scene where they had Wanda like basically it looked like walk through a hall, but it looked like it was like fast forward or something. It just looked really fucking terrible. And honestly, it happened more than once from what I saw. And plus, there were just a few other things that really did not make a lot of sense in that film, if you actually look at it. The storytelling can get pretty lazy as well at times, and even the story can even contradict itself a little bit, I feel like. So, yeah, honestly, those are things I really dislike. And Ultron should have never, and I mean ever have been a filler villain who acts like Tony Stark. That is stupid. And I get it. I get it. He was invented by Tony Stark. So I get what they were trying to do here. But that is not Ultron. Get that out of here. But now onto the things I did like. I like some of the shots this movie had to offer, like, the shot with all the Avengers together. I thought it was an outstanding debut for certain characters like Vision. Scarlet Witch got a nice little introduction. You know, nothing too really crazy here. It gave more development for certain characters like Bruce Banner and Clint Barton. And honestly, it had some solid foreshadowing for future events to come. And of course, we got Thanos teasing the after credits again and basically confirming that he's about to take action soon, which, yeah, 3 more years we have to wait. Lol. But besides that, if you look at it, it's not the worst film. It has some decent action here and there. It has some decent jokes here and there. The scene where like they're all in the bar and stuff, that scene was just very fun overall when they're all just trying to pick up Thor's hammer. So there are definitely some very good things about this movie, but overall, I would call it mid. I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10, middle of the road on this one.
All right, so this one actually for me is probably one of my favorites of all the MCU, with including my Hulk, my Incredible Hulk, one of my favorites. This is probably number two, number three for me. This is probably one of my favorite movies. Just how good, like the Vision debuts was great. I just love that Vision picks up Thor's hammer, gives it to Thor, and just Thor says, "Okay," just because he's just like, "All right, yeah, he's worthy. It's okay." It's just funny, and I love, yeah, the scene where everyone's trying to pick up Thor's hammer, just perfect, and you see Captain America hint that he can actually pick up that hammer slightly, but it was very close, very good. The foreshadowing, very much. It sucks that Ultron does have this kind of filler role, but I think he just perfectly settled this as a really mean character. I love seeing this. And technically, yes, he was invented by Tony Stark. This is why he was kind of acted like Tony Stark wanted him to be a peacekeeper, more or less. And now he's a corrupted peacekeeper. So I actually love this movie, and definitely for me, I gotta give this actually probably a 8.5 out of 10 for me, just because it's probably one of my favorites, and that's all I gotta say for me.
And okay, it's not the worst MCU thing ever, but I I strongly hate many of the montage scenarios because it's so generic, man. I don't like that at all because the montages for me were just they weren't as bad as the Incredible Hulk, but they were pretty bad, and it just went on and on and on, and I'm just like, dude, can we just stop this already? And like I said before, Ultron wasn't that great. If I'm being quite honest, he was just a douchebag Tony Stark, and I understand he was created just like him. But man, some of these lines that Ultron said were so fucking cringe, especially that puppet is like, "You can't keep the strings on me." I'm like, "You're quoting Pinocchio, for God's sakes. What are you doing? You're supposed to be a super villain." But other than that, it's fine for what it is. I mean, I like that little scene too of Thor's hammer, of like the guys just trying to lift it, and we got the little tease of Captain America eventually grabbing the hammer, which was fucking sick. And I'm just like, yeah, he will grab the hammer one day. And plus, I like the tank buster or the Hulk buster. I mean, that was great. The fight scenes were great, and shout out to Quicksilver. Unfortunately, he fucking dies real hard in this movie, but it was really cool seeing him until WandaVision, and it got introduced to Wanda and Vision, funny enough. So this movie was important. I personally don't like it. It's very weak, and I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 10.
Now, onto our final movie, Ant-Man. Now, I'm going to be honest. I thought Ant-Man was pretty good. I can't really say too much negative things about it. It wasn't really trying to be anything too complex. It was just trying to be a fun, simple summer flick, and it kind of fits that vibe. And honestly, personality was quite throughout the film. You can kind of just look in, like, some of the jokes. Personally, I thought his little friend, I forget the name of him sometimes, but he was hilarious with like some of his like backstories and whatnot. Thought it was really funny, and I like some of the simple cameos like we get from Falcon, and that was kind of cool. And honestly, like I said, it has simple yet successful storytelling. And yeah, honestly, there were only my only negatives with the film is that Yellow Jacket didn't really have fully realized motives, and that kind of takes away from the villain. And the villain is kind of basic, but in some ways that kind of helps, make for some great action scenes. So I can't really, knock them too much for the generic villain because they kind of do use that for its advantages. So yeah, and I will say this: maybe there was a dull scene or two throughout the film, but nothing too crazy or nothing that really dragged, I can really say. So overall, I'm going to give this a 7.5 out of 10.
For me, this is I really kind of forgettable for me because I actually was a good fan of Ant-Man. I actually loved him when I watched him in like the animated series of Avengers and stuff. But this movie, I love the actor, but this movie just to me just didn't sit right. To me, it just felt like it was just lazy for me. I like the Falcon and stuff, the Falcon cameos and all the other stuff that pops up. But it was super not emotionally into it or engaged in this movie. So I really just gotta give this probably a 4.5 out of 10 for me.
And yeah, and Ant-Man isn't that great. I find it kind of generic. I mean, I understand it's more of a popcorn film than anything, but it's fine. I mean, Ant-Man isn't like a bad film necessarily. I mean, I like Hank. I mean, I think he's like the best part of this whole entire movie. And then that funny scene with Thomas the Train Engine was pretty funny. And maybe the Dairy Queen too, or Baskin Robbins or whatever it was called, of him trying to get a job.
Yeah, he got fired from Baskin Robbins.
Yeah, because Baskin Robbins don't play around.
Yeah, it was funny. It was a funny movie. I can't hate knock on it too much.
I'm not gonna hate it. It's okay. It's not the worst thing ever. I mean, would I watch it again? No, because I find it very generic. Like, I don't know, man. It just seems like your ordinary like comedy film. Like shit. You even have what's his name? That the Mexican actor. What the hell is his name? But you know his buddy, right?
Yeah, I tried to remember his name earlier too.
Like whatever, like every movie that guy's in, and this is not against him. It's just him doing the same thing over and over. I'm the funny Mexican man. I'm quirky. Oh, by
Yeah.
the way, I'm
All right,
Mexican. So if we ever
you
get
actually,
popular, you can't fucking cancel me Twitter because my skin's brown too. So fuck you.
so you actually don't like him at all.
I don't like him as a character. I think he's very bland and generic, and he's not
All
funny.
right,
He's cringe,
all right, fair enough, fair enough.
and you can't cancel me Twitter. You can't
Well,
cancel me.
so if we had to rank these 6 movies, personally, I think Guardians of the Galaxy is my favorite. What would your favorite be from this bunch?
Avengers Age of Ultron for me.
And then I pick Winter Soldier, man.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for watching. I've been Daniel,
Ben Berman.
Evan Chris.
and we'll see you all in the next one.